beauties. Caitlin here from 100 Leaf Healing Arts, and I'm here for Womb Wellness Wednesdays. And this month I had a request for this installment of Womb Wellness Wednesdays to be about postpartum womb care. So I love it when I get these requests. You're always welcome to make suggestions. I love sharing with you all about the different ways that we can care for our bodies and how we can better listen to our bodies. And when we're postpartum, we have to treat our bodies really differently than when we're not in a postpartum time. So yeah, I want to talk about what that looks like when I do offer postpartum care, and also just mention that I do offer postpartum care because it's occurred to me that I haven't really shared that with my followers, that this is actually something that I do and it's something I love doing. And lately, I don't know if it's just with it having been springtime and summer, but I've been doing mostly postpartum sessions as of late and been working with a lot of new mamas. So I want to talk about what that looks like. So I definitely suggest working with a practitioner because the body is so tender postpartum, and there's so many different things that like don't feel normal for your body because you haven't experienced this before if you're the person that is postpartum. So I think it's really helpful to have a professional there to say, this is normal for what you're going through, or this is something that we might want to have looked at by a doctor or your midwife. And that is definitely something that that almost all of the mamas that I work with, something that they're asking of like, oh, are things feeling okay in my abdomen when we're doing abdominal massage? Are things feeling healthy? Am I recovering? Is this sadness that I'm feeling normal? Are there different herbal supports we could be putting into place to support the body? So that's one of the reasons why I really suggest working with a practitioner. That being said, all of the things that I'm planning on sharing with you today can totally be generalized just for how to care for your body when you have a postpartum body. So first things first, birth is a trauma, actually, right? So our body goes through one of the biggest changes from between pregnancy and giving birth. It is one of the biggest changes that our body undergoes in one of the shortest amounts of times, particularly giving birth, right? Because it usually happens for most people in a 24-hour period. And then we go from having another body inside of us and having all the things that go with that to not. And what an extreme change that is, hormonally, physically, emotionally. And on top of that, you have a newborn to care for often. So, so we just want to be gentle first and foremost. So the majority of my work actually is focused on the nervous system. And this is true for my work across the board, that nervous system support always is going to come first before we're doing more in-depth work. But for postpartum mamas, because they've gone through this somewhat traumatic body experience, whether they had the perfect birth by their expectations or a really not perfect birth by their expectations, it's still a big thing to happen in your body. So I am often just really supporting their nervous systems. I use a lot of oil, I use a lot of soft, earthy touch, and we move really slow. And if there's anything they need to process, we process throughout the session and before we get on the table, and just really take our time and go slow, particularly for bodies that are not getting a lot of rest. If you have a newborn at home, that's often the case. This restfulness and trying to get the nervous system down regulated from everything you just went through, but also from the hormones that are going through your body and the ways that your body is changing and trying to regulate itself with those changes. All of that, we just want to soothe first and foremost. Then we want to look at the body's natural way of contracting, right? So pregnancy, we often see women like where they're like waddling, right? Their rib cage becomes splayed open. They've got this big belly protruding out into the world in front of them, their hips open. Our a lot of the bones in our body actually do spread from their normal home. And our organs, of course, also are spreading. So some are getting pushed down and some are getting pushed up. And everything's kind of not in the normal space, but it's all this really expansive space. And then we look at the expansiveness of birth, both on an energetic, emotional level and on a physical level, right? So the woman has her legs spread often, and her cervix is spread, and everything is kind of like opening up, expanding to make space for this baby to come down the birth canal. But also the emotional, energetic expansiveness of how much energy, how much do you need to expand and take on that like universal life force energy to propel this being out of your body, and the emotional expansion that comes from getting to hold your newborn for the first time, and all of the rawness that comes with that. So the body's natural response anytime we have a really large expansion is to contract. So we want to encourage contraction in a way that is really healthy and yummy for mama, instead of allowing the body to go into those ways that can be a little less healthy. So that might look like postpartum depression. That would be a really contractive response to the expansiveness of giving birth. It might even just look like, a lot of moms, when they're breastfeeding, they breastfeed like this. This is a position I see all the time. They're holding their baby and they're fully hunched forward holding this baby. And then we get all sorts of back problems and hip problems, and the alignment in the whole body just gets really thrown off. So if we can find natural ways to support that contraction in a balanced way, then we find that that women just have a healthier process, and these ways that our body contracts we can lean into the healthier ones. So for instance, I do 2 forms of belly binding. One, I use fajas, and I also use bengkung belly binds. And those actually support the bones and the organs with being tucked inward. And it also supports this thing, because if you have bind right here, you can't really hunch that much. So we're bringing everything in, tucking her in. It feels like a nice warm hug, and a lot of women just find it feels so supportive of their bodies. The other thing is through touch. So abdominal massage, when I'm working with a postpartum body, looks like a lot of tucking in. I'm tucking in her ribs, I'm tucking in her abs, I'm tucking in her hips. There's a lot of tucking. And even the emotional support that goes along with this is a lot of the tucking in and just having her feel held in the container of our sessions. So then when it comes to womb massage, it looks really different on a postpartum body than it does on a non-postpartum body. So of course I'm always going really slow and reading a woman's body as I'm approaching the womb, particularly because it is such a sensitive spot on our bodies. But on a postpartum body, right, this womb has just been so expanded, and then it tends to get really contracted and hard and low in the body. And that's okay. That's what we want it to do. We want it to go through this process of contracting itself so that it can regain that natural form of, like, it goes from really expanded to really contracted, and then it can sort of balance out and soften out, and we can help it return to its normal position. So for us, we are looking at really soft touch. We're when I was first learning this and kind of like experimenting and trying to learn how much was too much, I maybe might have gone too hard on a woman's body, and the womb actually is really responsive in this state. So it actually, I could feel it contracting in my hand and saying, that's too much. And it actually was a physical sensation of holding this womb and having it contract. So we go really slow. We just encourage things to move back to their position. This is particularly where I suggest working with a practitioner, because because there's so much unknown in the body at this point that it can be really helpful to just get another set of eyes and hands on your body to support that process, to support the process of like, when is it time to do deeper work? When is it time to actually be lifting the womb if it hasn't naturally migrated back to its original home into a higher position? For most bodies that I've worked with, there's a really wide range. Somewhere between 5 and 20 weeks is when I found that I can do the deeper work and actually helping that womb to reset to its preferred position. But women remain postpartum in my book for, I would say, up to a year. Other practitioners might even say longer than that. So it's really about like, when are things feeling good? We really will test a little and then we'll back off. We'll test a little, we'll back off, and just go really slow, because like I said, if we get the nervous system supported, the body knows how to do so much of its own healing and does so much of its own healing that we have to do less work. So going slow is one of the ways that we can be deeply supportive of the nervous system in this process. If you have any questions for me about postpartum womb massage, if you'd like to book an appointment, if you want to book a consult, if you're currently pregnant and are just curious what this looks like, if this is something you should be budgeting for in your postpartum time, I'm always happy to set up calls and to answer questions. You can Instagram me, you can Facebook message me, you can call or text, or just go ahead and book a free 15-minute phone consult. I'm always happy to share. This is, I really just feel passionately about helping women to understand their bodies and understand what's going on when there's lots of changes going on. And if you have suggestions for next month's installment of Womb Wellness Wednesdays, I would love to hear them. And in the meantime, feel free to connect with me, and I am always happy to share. Thank you.